This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest's Short Shots. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me, as usual, is Richard Hawes.
Hello, everyone.
I say as usual. It's been a 2-year hiatus since we managed to put together one of these, but even so. Yeah, not for want of trying. Now, all of the films we're going to be talking about in this episode, bar one, are available on YouTube, and we will put links to all of them in the footnotes. There is one exception, which we will get to later on. But we're going to kick off with a film called Temporal Takedown, followed by Lucky Night and The COUP. Then we have Bulletstorm, Prevail, Dakota Stone, The Protector, and The Proposal. Our long shot, see what we did there, is a long short film called Night of the Ronin. And then we are going to end up with not a DTV throwback, but a short shot throwback, HARDWAY, the action musical. So without further ado, let's crack on. Our first film then is Temporal Takedown. A woman with the mysterious time-freezing powers infiltrates a dirty car workshop to get the name of a dangerous gangster. Nice short synopsis, nice good setup. Very well executed film. It uses the gimmick of the time freezing really well, mixes that in with some very good action choreography. I was very pleased with this one, Rich.
Yeah, me too. It's from Norwegian. I think is he Norwegian or Swedish? Let me just check.
Martin Sofidal.
Martin Sofidal, Norwegian director. He's done features and shorts. He did a film called Blasted, which has been doing the rounds on Netflix. Okay. But I haven't had time to watch that yet. But I've seen a few of his short films in the past, and they've all been very slick, well produced affairs. Last year he did a Men in Black short film. He does lean towards action, so that was kind of an action short as well. And he's done other video game based stuff and different things. So his stuff's well worth looking at. And you realise this was the Men in Black film, I thought this was great. I mean, it's very much a fight film. Very little setup. You just kind of get straight into it, and it's just quite relentless. I think it had his work reminds me of the stuff that Godfrey Roydfark's doing. Mm-hmm. Very polished, very good cinematography. Lots of really good little gags in there. So the choreography sort of works with the concept, which is, like you say, there's two parts to it. There's kind of a time free. There's a battery based element, which is sort of it's like a race against time kind of thing. It's a bit like in the, let's say, like something like the Justin Timberlake film In Time or something. There's like something that's in them. I think in this case, our main character, I think she's an android or otherwise, like cybernetically enhanced. So she's drawing her power from a battery, which is running down. But then she's also got this time freezing capability, and she's like, there's a point where she says, look, I can explain that, but obviously they never do. It's just like just run with. And yeah, there's the visual effects on it when she employs that device and turns the tables on her opponents, getting them to hit each other, or turns what they're doing against themselves. Or there's one bit where she gets one of the characters to sort of freeze in place while his leg's in motion, and then pushes the other two forward, so that when they reactivate, it kind of spin kicks them both in the head, basically. And so there's loads of little devices, very much sort of a Matrixy, bullet timey kind of idea, I guess. But I thought it was really polished, really well done.
Yeah, so I mean, from a visual point of view, from a visual storytelling point of view, it is very economic It tells you exactly what you need to know. And as you say, she does have this kind of a dilemma. Sort of the more she uses her special skill, the more it's going to drain her batteries, kind of
Yes.
scenario. So, she's got to balance that out. How much does she rely on it? Yeah, it's just really well done. A single room location, but with lots of props and things to get hold of. It looks great. The cinematography is really good. Just very, very solid. Yeah, very enjoyable.
Yeah, the film is it's a Norwegian film, but it is shot in English.
Mm,
So I mean, there are other films we'll discuss later, which come from other countries, but get around the language barrier by minimizing the language even more than that. But I thought this could have been from America or something. It played like an
mm,
American kind of short, I thought, and yeah, I thought the whole team did a really good job. I thought.
absolutely. Now, surprisingly, Martin himself has said that this only cost $1,800 to make, which
That's
is
pretty amazing when you consider all the
crazy. Yeah,
photography
absolutely.
and the
Yeah,
visual
absolutely
effects
crazy.
they use.
Hmm. Okay. Well, as I said at the top of the show, we don't score the shorts, but we will recommend that you go watch them, and you'll find a link to this in the footnotes below. Go check it out. Our next short is Lucky Night, a Junker's Tale. A character called Quinn has just won big. However, he encounters Kanjo Smalls on the same night. A bounty hunter by the name of Soto has also come to collect. It's somebody's lucky night. Okay, so we get a bit of backstory to this one, I guess. We've got this bounty hunter called Soto who's trying to track down this guy, Kanjo. Little does he know, he's gone to collect a debt from this guy called Quinn, who's just won won a few $1,000s on a UFC fight or something. So he ends up getting a fight with Soto while Quinn sort of watches from the sidelines. It's that simple, basically, is the setup. What did you make of this one?
Well, I mean, I'm not in love with the short as a whole, I'll be honest,
Hmm.
but there were things about it that I was interested in. It's related to a short or potential feature that's called Junkers. And so this is
Hmm.
set in the same universe, and I'm not sure, I think it's like a prequel, but I haven't been able to track down
Hmm.
Junkers, which is listed in the 2019 production, or at least the short was, but I haven't been able to find it. And this was made in 2021. Junkers looks very much Star Wars kind of,
Hmm.
or at least let's say Firefly, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and this is kind of this is an introduction to a couple of the characters in that story. So there's a little bit of space stuff at the beginning, but it's very much
Hmm.
down on the planet, if that's Earth, I'm not sure, but they're down on the planet, and we kind of get this long lead. If you were looking at it as if you were considering it a fight film, which it ultimately ends up being, it's got a very protracted lead in.
Yeah.
It's more about establishing the characters and stuff, and I wasn't really that bothered about it, although I did like the character, the sort of the main bad guy character of Scar. I thought he was very imposing. He was a good character to introduce. Um, but if you think about the Star Wars thing, even the character names sound like they're
Hmm.
out of Star Wars. They sound like variations. But this is kind of a character introduction vignette, I guess, as like a spin-off or prologue or something to this Junkers story. Which there's some interesting footage of there, out about of like people running around on the spaceship set and stuff. So
Hmm.
I thought the choreography and stuff was decent. I think that I always like to see a fight short that's got a bit of meat on the bone, and this has definitely got a bit of that. But it's kind of like I didn't really care about this guy earning, winning his
Hmm.
money in the gamble, winning the gambling bet and stuff. I think they could have truncated that a bit more. I think I would have got rather sort of, as you would have said, got to the fireworks factory
Yeah.
quicker.
Hmm.
But it's a decent production, and I'm definitely interested. I mean, that this was made in 2021. And it's only really just getting released.
No.
In terms of following its film festivals and stuff that it's done. I'm very interested to see if they've made much progress on building on that or developing the Junkers story and stuff and getting Junkers itself out, because I want to see that story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wasn't as taken with this one. I did like the production values. I thought there was something going on with the dubbing in this one as well.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't catch anything with the dubbing. I mean, there's one or two we're gonna watch later that have got some quite clear ADR and stuff. But
definitely.
No, I think
Yeah,
the
maybe it's just
performers and the fights were done by a guy called Luke Gregory Crosby. I thought that was all put together really nicely. It's not much built on the action, but the fight goes on for a good 2 or 3 minutes, I would have said, and you get your money's worth definitely. But you got about 7 minutes of lead in, and for me that was just a bit too much. I think I could have done with say cutting through that quite quickly. But like you say, decent enough. But I mean, it all takes place for the most part in a part of an alleyway, so it's a very limited space. But then again, so was Temporal Takedown and stuff that we watched. A lot of these shorts, they take place in very limited spaces, and I thought that was fine. I would like to see, because there's at the end of Lucky Night, he says, "Oh, maybe I'll see you in the bar or whatever later," and we can talk about.
I got the impression he was a barman, Quinn.
Right.
I think it was his bar that he was sort of going back into. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, that would make sense, and then that could potentially lead into something more of like a cantina sort of vibe. I guess that would be pretty cool to see something like that. But so whether it's another short or a feature for that sort of this leads into that world, I'm definitely curious. As I say, I wasn't massively sold on this particular story, but I'm definitely interested in the characters.
Okay. Well, you can check this out by following the link in the footnotes below. Go check it out. Next up is The COUP. In this, 3 separate thieves try to break into a mansion to steal a coveted power drink or energy drink. Interesting. So it says on their YouTube page, it started as a challenge by G-Man Entertainment. We were given a drink, the keyword hero, and complete creative freedom. Awesome. This is really well done. This reminds me, Rich, of there's a short we covered a while ago, which was something along the lines of Indiana Jones versus Uncharted versus Lara Croft.
Yes, yeah.
It is a very similar vibe to that.
Yeah. They're all vying for the same thing, aren't they? It's kind of an Indiana Jones, this kind of thing of they're trying to get hold of the artifact, or in this case, which is in this case an energy drink.
Exactly. Yeah, quite a special energy drink, it has to be said. So yeah, we have these 3 thieves breaking in, using different tactics. One's kind of ninja-like, one's a bit like Jackie Chan from Armor of God, going for that sort of style. And I thought
Andy On, who's from Luke Van Tien.
Yeah, exactly. I thought they did a really good job overall. You could really believe that this particular energy drink, what was so coveted that 3 people are going to try and steal it. It's just really, really well done.
It's a promotional film for this energy drink, but they've made it into like this. What is it? How long? About 9 minutes. Action short. It's from Germany. The drink is G-Man. I guess it's a variation on German, but it's a German energy drink.
Oh, it's supposed to be like Gentleman, wasn't it? It was a.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it was. Okay. Yeah, I did remember seeing a banner or something in the background at some point.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it's German, but they've trying to got around the international language barrier by
language.
Just making it dialogue free. So there's not a single word of dialogue, I think, through the whole thing. And it works quite well, especially with that, you know, the element of the Jackie Chan style action, which obviously has its roots in the silent cinema and stuff. So that all works really nicely. We've got three different, like as you say, like that Indiana Jones and Tomb Raider kind of short. We've got three factions, three individuals each trying to get hold of this thing, and then there's a it's all set in like an art gallery and a really nice looking place, a really great location that they found for it. And the guard is the sort of, he starts out as the oblivious
he's the comic relief to begin with, isn't he?
Kind of thing. And then the twist is that he's the one who gets the I don't want to give it away, but this is sort of quite important to mention. But yeah, he gets the drink and then transforms, and then he becomes like a superhero character, very much a Black Mask or Green Hornet style outfit that he's wearing here. And the three villains of the piece, as it were, have to take on him. And it's a lot of fun. We've got an international group here, including Caitlin Hudson, who's from America. She's very prolific. We've covered a few of her shorts in the past, but she's all over the place in loads of different stuff, feature shorts, TV shows and stuff, but and movies. She's done quite a few, so she's really good. Andy On Nguyen, as he's listed here, I mean, he's fantastic. So I mentioned he did the film Luc Vantien, which we've seen and highly recommend. Try and check it out. It's like you can usually find it on things like Plex and stuff. I'm not sure how easily available it is, but it's for a Vietnamese action comedy, very well worth seeing. The action is done by Vidan Tran, who worked with Andy on the short film Cyberpunk 2077, which is another long. It's a long short. It's 40 minutes long. That's really worth checking out as well. Andy On's work is always top notch. He's been a member of the Jackie Chan stunt team and stuff. He's brilliant. I don't know so much about a couple of the others in the short, and the director is not sort of somebody I'm particularly familiar with, but I think they've done a great job, apart from one thing. Now, you might not have noticed this as much as I did, but a lot of the film I found was either intentionally or unintentionally blurry.
Okay.
So it felt like there was, and I've watched it twice, so I know it wasn't just me on the first shot watching it, but it was, the scenes play out like they've either been intentionally put out of focus or blurred in some way, and I just can't understand why they did it or what went wrong with it, because it happens throughout the short, and once you've noticed it, I'm guessing that you didn't notice it, and it didn't impair your.
Yeah, I didn't, but I'm just flicking through it now. I mean, the thing is, I watched it on my 4K TV. So maybe that upscaled it a bit, but I mean, the setting on YouTube is at 720, and the image does look a bit soft.
Yeah, it was like it wasn't. It didn't feel like it was like when your connection drops or whatever, and the quality goes down and in and out, that kind of thing. It didn't feel like that. It felt more.
It's not pixelating or anything.
Yeah, it wasn't misplaying, and I was just, because sometimes it happens from the beginning on a couple of the sort of non-action shots, but then it's happening in the action shots as well, and I was thinking it sort of took the edge off of the enjoyment, because all of a sudden I'm looking at it like a blurry fight, and it just bothered me a bit. I don't know what that was about, or whatever, or whether anyone else is going to have the same issue as that. But that was literally my only problem with it. Otherwise, apart from that, I thought it was excellent.
Yeah, definitely. And once again, you can find a link to this in the footnotes below. Go check it out. Next up is Bulletstorm. A seasoned contract killer breaks his lethal code when ordered to assassinate a former ally who once saved his life. Okay. This is all over the place, Rich.
It is. It's all over the place, geographically and now.
Literally. hardly a scene goes by which doesn't have a caption telling you that this is, oh, we're in a different location now. It's constant almost.
I'm going to say what I felt like this was
Yeah,
when I was watching it. It feels so fast paced that it feels like a recap.
yeah, that's
You know,
kind of it.
like
Yeah, that's
you're watching the summary of where, like, last week on
yeah,
Bulletstorm.
exactly. Previously on Bulletstorm, that
Previously, yeah.
because you're absolutely right. You're kind of watching it, and this whole scene's missing. It just jumps from thing to thing, basically. And, it reminds me of an episode of The Simpsons when he's trying to tell a story and he tells you the twist at the end, and everyone just goes, well, so what? And you go, don't you remember? I told you this earlier. You go, no, you didn't. You know, you forgot key details. Yeah, I found it very difficult to follow this one, I must admit. And where was the storm? I think we get a mild shower at least. At best, I mean. So yeah, I mean, what can you tell us? Go for it.
Well, it's kind of a vanity project for an aspiring action star called Peter Pham,
Peter Fan.
who's
Yeah.
Australian, and they've clearly put a lot of effort into it because it's been shot. They've gone to international locations. He's got Cambodian heritage,
Hmm.
and they've gone to Cambodia to shoot a large part of it. I think the opening was shot in Australia, and then when the film starts proper, they relocate to Cambodia. So there's some really nice locations, specifically the Angkor Wat Temple,
Hmm.
which is the largest. I think UNESCO have sort of said it's the largest religious sort of temple site in the world. It dates back, to like the 12th century, I think, and it adds brilliant production value, but it's only for a very short sequence
Hmm.
that is basically completely irrelevant to the story. The he seems to go there to have a bit of a look around while he's got 5 minutes,
Hmm.
as a tourist, because you feel like he's going there to meet someone, but he doesn't. He sort of goes there, he sees some people training, and he asks them what it is, and they say it's Bokota,
Yeah.
which we watched a film about at the Fighting Spirit Film Festival called Surviving Bokota, which was really interesting about that Cambodian martial art. And he says, "Oh, can I train with you?" And they do a little bit of a training sequence, and that's
Hmm.
it. And then they cut away. So it was like they went there and they just shot this little training bit, and everywhere else is sort of abandoned building locations or whatever, which is a real shame because it could have been
Hmm.
shot anywhere. There's what is it? The opening is the usual. I'm a retired agent. I'm not doing it anymore. And they go,
Yeah.
well, this is the guy who comes in. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do it or whatever. And they go, well, there's a personal motivation for you. And then the guy's out. All right, then I'm in.
Fine.
And it kind of leads into that. I feel like that personal motivation part never really went anywhere.
Hmm.
And also he then goes from that meeting to another meeting, which I was a bit, hang on a minute. So he's meeting two handlers in a row. And then I was like, no, maybe the other guy, maybe he's undercover now and he's sort of seeing this other guy. And then that's got really heavy ADR on that scene and a
Hmm.
couple of other things as well. And then he does his he goes back to the hotel, sleeps, has a nightmare. Then he does his tourism thing, and then he goes to have his showdown sort of meeting with this bad guy. And it's so he's gone from this sort of deserted car park complex or unfinished building kind of location to like this derelict house sort of setting. And there's a guy sitting there, quite smartly dressed, just sitting in a chair in an empty sort of derelict room with no furniture. And then there's a woman who comes in and starts talking to him, and she's really dressed to the nines as well. And
Hmm.
well, why are they so well dressed to be in this location? I don't know. And then sort of we end up getting, there's a little bit of a confrontation. They chase each other around with guns. There's some henchmen to take care of. We get some sort of bullet time. There's the bullet time shot. Yeah,
Hmm.
the really bad visual effects, sort of firing a gun from a bullet thing that they throw, which again, completely unnecessary. Doesn't look very good, but it's kind of a flourish that they've just thrown in there. there's decent stuff in here, and I definitely think there's potential. I'm definitely interested in, Peter Pham and what he's going to do, and building on this as sort of one of his start. He co-directed this with another director because he'd not directed before. He worked with an experienced director, but again, I haven't seen that other person's work, so I can't say what that's like. But I think it's a bit choppy, this, but there is some potential there, and I do think it's worth a look.
Okay.
Well, with some reservations.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's budget concerns, obviously, because there's sound effects missing, there's visual effects missing. It feels unfinished. Basically, is
I think it may have been put together as like a proof of concept, but I think when you do that, you've kind of got to be upfront about it. I think in the description it could say, here's something we've put together we're hoping to do more with it, kind of thing, but it's kind of been put out there as its own complete project. And I think it's unfortunately it does come up short in quite a few areas, but I would say the quality of the action, I would say it's probably not one of them. I think the action is decent enough.
Fair enough. Okay. I remain unconvinced of this one, but go check it out in the footnotes. Let us know what you think. Go check it out. Next up is Prevail. A ruthless hitman is ordered to kill his own twin brother. I do like the concept of this one, in that we have this sort of fight. It's basically a fight scene, but it's intercut with flashbacks of the pair growing up. Their overbearing father / instructor, how they were as teens, that sort of thing, and sort of previous run-ins leading up to this final confrontation. Wasn't entirely convinced by the choreography at times, but this is definitely the most bloodthirsty of the shorts we're looking at today. There are a couple of pretty nasty slashes going on in this one. I got into it more as it went on, but as they start off, I felt it was a bit clunky, I must admit. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think there's some really good action in here. I think the film gets off. It launches straight into a pretty complex action scene that just goes on for 2.5 minutes, which I thought was really good. But also, when you're watching it, it's kind of got the feeling that this is it's kind of telling you how, or signaling how choreographed it is, because it feels like you're watching something that's it feels like they're being very careful at times, that they're doing the moves that they've worked out together. It doesn't have that great action choreography. It does it looks like it's the moves are naturally or organic out of the situation, whereas here it felt like everyone knew what was coming and they were just sort of making sure that they were doing the moves and receiving the moves in the way that was the safest for them. So there's a certain element of feeling like it's pulling its punches. But I thought, on the second, when I watched it a second time, I've sort of tried to park that concern a little bit, and I did think, that's really, really good stuff. They're trying really hard with some really complex, fast-paced moves here. There's lots of longer takes, so they're doing quite a few movements within one shot. And even though it's only 2.5 minutes, there's a hell of a lot in that 2.5 minutes, and it's pretty been put together quite painstakingly. At that point, that's pre-title, so the title comes up. Again, it's still being told quite visually, so we get the guy walking away from the damage that he's inflicted, looking at a checklist, and he's just basically crossing off that's the last location. So whatever he was looking for at that point, he's kind of like, well, he's kind of exhausted all the possibilities. But then all of a sudden, suddenly out of nowhere, and I thought it was in his head at first, and maybe it is, I don't know. His quarry, basically, the guy he's looking for, who's apparently his brother, appeared magically behind him. That's why I think it's in his head, because it just sort of suddenly out of nowhere, he's suddenly appearing. And although the rest of the story does not, the rest of the film doesn't unfold in any sort of fantastical way, and it does feel like it's actually happening. But anyway, so I thought, you know, so you've got the film split into that opening group fight scene of him taking on all comers, like 5 or 6 or 3 or 4 people, whatever it is, and then it becomes a one-on-one situation. And the film is how long? 12 minutes long, something like that. 11 minutes long. So it's then about 7 minutes or so of these two, and it focuses a little bit on a more dramatic element, which some of the other thoughts that we've watched tonight, that they don't really dwell on any sort of conflict or drama, and this film sort of pauses at various points to reflect. And one of the ways it's doing that is, like you said, it's with those flashbacks, and I think that's the film's best strength, when it has those flashbacks to basically he's fighting his brother, and they flash back to an earlier fight. I thought the editing between those two fights was really good, really good. And I think that's the best part of it, is there's some of the editing in this, and the editing is really good, and sort of almost compensates for some of the weaknesses in the choreography. I hate to say it's weak choreography, because the choreography is really, really, really good.
It needs a bit of undercranking, doesn't it? I think some of it just doesn't have the urgency you'd expect.
Yeah, I think also because it's almost like a previs sort of thing. I know, because some previs is really, really high standard, but this looks like it just needed a few more runs at it before they sort of locked in the final sets of shots. Because it's not a problem with all of it. It's just the occasional bit that sort of pulls you out a bit slightly. But I thought it was really good. It's from a director called Ryan Dalen, and I believe it's a family affair, because the 2 guys are Dalens as well. So and one of them, Derek, is the action choreographer. So I think they're possibly all brothers. Though I don't know that 100% for sure, but I think they're working out of I think it's a Filipino production.
Yes, it is.
One. Yeah. And I think it sort of sits nicely against sort of talking about something like Bulletstorm, which was trying to do such a big story in such a limited amount of time. And this is actually a very succinct, neat story. You know, we're coming in at the end of something, and it's they're not trying to over explain it. There's not loads of exposition. There's very little dialogue, but we know exactly what's happening. And I think that works really nicely. And there's a little bit of both films actually try to leave you with a little thought-provoking, or this I wasn't sure that was going to happen kind of moment at the end. And I think this one that works better. You're sort of left pondering the character and his fate and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think it's definitely. I think this improved on a second watch for me. I thought it's got some really interesting stuff in it.
Awesome. And you can check this film out by going to the links in the footnotes below. Go check it out. Our next film is Dakota Stone. A tough and athletic operative faces a night of betrayal, brawls, and high-stakes negotiations as she maneuvers through the volatile dynamics of 2 criminal brothers and their empire. Okay. Shot in black and white to give it that sort of nice noir feel. Very well acted. Well, our main character, really did enjoy her. I enjoyed her sort of short brawls with the pub bouncer before she gets in and sort of, into the pub itself. The concept is more enjoyable than the actual film, I feel. I like the idea, although it's the official synopsis kind of spoils it a bit. I like the idea of this person being sort of a bit of muscle for hire kind of thing, sort of a troubleshooter who can be brought in to do stuff and then leave. A bit like Minder in a way,
Yeah.
I think that concept is pretty good, but the idea is they tried to sort of frame this as that she's going undercover as a minder, to sort out these two Scottish brothers who are trying to strong arm their way into ownership of this pub. Um, I did like bits of it, I must admit, but I didn't think the end fight really sort of came to much. But the concept I thought was sound for sure.
Yeah, I think uh, so I wasn't massively struck on this one, apart from the black and white. I thought the lead character, I think it's clear that she's not an actress, and she doesn't seem to have any credits. And I thought she was struggling with the dialogue a bit. And also there were certain other things, like she goes to this meeting, and then they like say come back at midnight, and then so
Yeah.
she's supposed to be going back late at night, and they've done a day for night kind of thing, but they haven't darkened it enough, so it looks like it's about 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't look or feel like it's nighttime. And then we've got this other character who we're introduced to, and she's doing like a dance for one of the guys in the sort of a private dance kind of thing. And I don't know, it didn't quite, that wasn't all quite working anyway. So what I'll say is, the second time I watched it and I researched it a little bit more, I became a bit more interested in it, because the two main female characters are dancers from Strictly.
Okay.
So so they've both been on the rotor, I think, for quite a while now. I think they're still with the show. So Nancy Yu, who's Chinese, she's the lead, Dakota Jones, and Katya Jones, I believe, is the name of the other performer, who she's Russian. So I thought they both had presence, and I think Nancy Yu is not, as far as I can tell, she's not a martial artist, but I worked with her with the choreography as a dancer. She's definitely worked that really well, and she was very convincing, I thought. So it could be that she's got a martial arts background that I couldn't find evidence of, or they just used her dancing background for that. So I thought her physicality was her strength, I thought, in the role. Katya Jones had a bit more presence as a performer, because she does that little dance, but you wouldn't know that she was a professional dancer from that dance, because it's just like she sort of swings a little bit around. It's like a pole sort of thing, and it's like very it's not a particularly extravagantly choreographed moment to sort of, so there's nothing in there to really test her. But she gets a couple of dialogue scenes, and then there's the other guy who I'm not sure, but I think he's got a musical sort of dance background as well. They do okay. It's all shot in a bar called the Fitzgerald, which is in Manchester, which does bring some production values, but you can tell this is a micro budget short. There's not a lot of bells and whistles and flourishes to it. The black and white is the sort of thing that makes it really stand out. With the action from fight director Ronan Trainer, sort of making that sort of stand out a bit more and get the attention of places like the Fighting Spirit Film Festival, which it played at a year or two ago, which unfortunately I didn't get a chance to go that year, but it was good to finally get a chance to catch up with this. And its director, Charisse Griffiths, has got loads of other interesting stuff on her filmography, that some shorts and stuff, which unfortunately I haven't been able to track down to view, but I'm definitely interested to see what else she's done. And she's got a feature film coming out. I think she might have done a feature before, but there's a feature called what is it called? Hang on one second. It is Damaged Goods. And that's in post-production. Really good poster for that. Very sort of really caught my eye. So I'm very interested to see what happens with that. But she's done action shorts and that before. There was one called Hired Gun, which I've tried to locate, but without any success. But she's done absolutely tons of shorts over the last 10, 12 years. So I thought this was, considering that background of like being in the business, filmmaking for like 10 years, this didn't feel like it had that level of experience. But again, I think they're just working with a really low budget, trying to sort of, put something together I think they made it in like a couple of days. So I can't really criticize it for that. It's just more of a case of I think there was some other things for me that just didn't quite work. But conceptually, like you're saying about the sort of minder thing, it goes back to what we're saying about Bulletstorm. You know, it's kind of that. You know, there's an agent or whatever, and they're being called upon to do this. In this case, she's been waiting for this. You know, sort of sitting around. It didn't feel like the job that she's been waiting for was that significant for them to be sort of hanging around so much. But yeah, so we'll see what I think it was an interesting little experiment using quite a decent location and a couple of performers from another media that makes it worthwhile. So if you're a Strictly fan and you've been watching it in the last several years, so unfortunately I haven't been watching it for years, so I didn't know I didn't recognize them. But if you're a fan of the show, I think there's definitely curiosity value here to check this out. But you will possibly be a bit disappointed that there's not when there is a little bit of dancing, there's not much to it. But the fight choreography, I think, is pretty decent.
It was pretty decent. She has 2 run-ins with this. I don't know if he's a bouncer or whatever. But I kind of wish that he'd been a bit more professional instead of being just a sleazy guy. You know,
it was a bit sleazy.
It would have made it more interesting. And if they dropped the idea of like, oh, she's some sort of deep cover agent, and just have it as, you know, she's somebody for hire. You know, she's a troubleshooter who can come in and help solve problems. You know, I think that conceptually that could run. You know, you could do a whole series of shorts based on that. It'd be great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, there's that bit in the 3rd act where she fights that guy. You know, again, you know, she comes back and it's you again. He's like, right, I'm annoyed with you, so I'm gonna, you know, teach you a lesson for what you did to me earlier, kind of thing. But she's like throwing him around and smacking him up against the glass sort of wall thing. And you know, there's 2 people in the other room. There's not a lot of noise.
Don't hear a thing.
And they don't hear a thing. And that bothered, you know, little things like that just bothered me.
Yeah.
It was just that really put me out of it. I was thinking you would notice. There's windows for one thing, so you would
You'd have seen them. Yeah.
The other dancer character, she would have seen it. Whether she knew that was what was going to happen and she was quite happy with it, I'm not sure, because some of the characters' motivations I was really unclear on. But yeah, say stylistically successful, action-wise pretty successful, but the other elements just didn't quite work for me.
Yep, there you go. We want you to go check it out. Click the link in the footnotes below. Go check it out. Our next film is The Protector. Set in the mean streets of London, an unassuming couple's date night turns violent when confronted by a group of street thugs. This is actually possibly my favourite of the bunch, Rich.
I'm not surprised.
I thought this was very, very good indeed. Mainly thanks to Joe Rollison, who's the sort of main character in this. I thought she was very, very good indeed. There's a particular kick that she does where she launches herself into the chest of one guy and then uses that to swing her other leg around to kick the guy behind her. I thought that was absolutely superb. There's a few other little bits that she does. There's one where somebody rushes her and, you know, is grabbed around the waist, and she just allows him to back her towards the wall and then just manages to get out of the way. So he just hits himself into the wall. Things like that. Really, really good. And then there's the whole thing of like using her boyfriend as a marionette.
Oh yeah.
was very, very well done. Yeah, no, this was very good. I even liked the sort of the street gang sort of dialogue. You know, I thought that was good. It just fit. Yeah, really, really impressive on this.
Yeah, so one of the subsets of the fight short is the fight in an underpass, which we do see quite a lot. And this one's written and directed by Bruce Chong, who he's been around for he's London based, so this is another British short. I think he's London based anyway, working a lot around sort of him and Joe Rollison sort of seem to work in the same circles as like JD Duffield. They've worked with her once or twice as well. And the way back when we did couple of Chris Chung films called Handuken and Soho Jimbo.
Oh yeah,
And he worked on those. And he more recently he did a film called The Brothers Swap, which is kind of a playful sort of fan film, sort of what was that Netflix show? The Brothers something was.
The Brother's Son, the one with Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah, that was the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that was kind of a tip of the hat kind of short that he did for that.
Mhm.
This one, he was the star of that. What I think is interesting here is he's made something where he's very much not the star. he's like completely going against what your expectation of like a vanity project might be. In that he is like he's really letting his girlfriend character basically sort of sort the situation out. So, and Joe Rollison, who's the performer and also the choreographer, I think, of the sequences as well. They probably work together on it. I thought they really, because it plays against your expectation, doesn't it? It's like you don't. I mean, the poster gives it away and stuff, but if you haven't seen the poster and you just launch straight into the film with very little knowledge, you're going to expect that he's probably going to be the one to protect her, and then the whole way they turn that on their head, which was quite fun. Not something we haven't seen before, because there's definitely been sort of the upsetting the apple cart, sort of confounding the sort of sexist expectation of what the action sequence might be before. But Joe Rollison I wasn't really familiar with, so I thought she was really impressive. Bruce Chong, in the parts that he was playing and director or whatever, did a really great job. Say it's all set in it's a fight short. Say I would classify it as like action comedy within the sort of within the fight short subset, because there's little playful jokes and stuff, a bit like what we were saying with like Temporal Takedown and stuff. They just throw these little jokes and stuff in, and the same with the coup as well. There's lots of playful moments, like you say, with that sort of using him as like a shield or a doll or something to fight them off. It was really fun, and it's a 7 minutes, very entertaining. This was another one that played fighting spirit, and I can only imagine that it did really, really well in that crowd. Yeah, she's been doing stunts with for example, she's worked on films like Back in Action, where she was Glenn Close's stunt double. She did Havoc. Did a couple of other Netflix things actually as well. There's one called Lift, which was that
what's his name?
Here Today, Gone Tomorrow kind of action comedy thing. The Witcher, Luther, The Fallen Sun, so Warrior, a whole bunch of Netflix stuff. But also she was Rachel Brosnahan's stunt double in The Amateur, which was the Rami Malek spy movie, which is on Disney. So that's some quite good action in it as well. But so definitely, she's definitely one to keep an eye on, and hopefully we'll see her more. Say she's very much behind the camera, being a double and stuff, but definitely someone I hope we'll see more of as an actress, in sort of more prominent roles.
Indeed, absolutely. Keep an eye out. So there we have it. Check this out by checking the link in the footnotes below. Go check it out. Next up is The Proposal. Two special agents who are also a couple see their mission and their future together threatened when unresolved anger issues spiral out of control at the worst possible moment. So we've got two agents, and it's the man having to tell the woman not to lose her shit, basically, when they go on this mission. They don't want any casualties. A nice smooth in and out into this thing. Not really clear what the mission actually is, other than getting into this building and avoiding the security there. But that goes sideways pretty quickly when the woman's shoe gets dirty, and she kind of loses it a bit. It's fun. It's definitely a fun one, very well choreographed, and quite amusing. The bickering that goes on. This is quite an enjoyable one. Rich, over to you.
Yeah, so this is sort of came out of the 87 North group. It was designed originally it's originally set up as kind of what they term or the director terms as an assignment that they were given by David Leitch as like a team training exercise. And the lead actress, Nereida Vega, which I might be mispronouncing that, she's an Albanian stunt performer, an actress. She worked with a screenwriter and stuff to pull this project together with director Dan Liu. They were definitely going, and I think you can definitely tell this when you're watching it, even without me telling you. They've gone for sort of a John Wick kind of feel to it. And when I was watching it, I was even thinking, this is like, I mean, if you take the comedy stuff out, it's like Ballerina before Ballerina, because she's got a very, very much of an Ana de Armas kind of look about her. And some of the sequences, because they're 87, they have that same feel to some of the sequences that we ended up seeing in Ballerina. There's a bit where she cocks this shotgun and stuff, and she's shooting people. And it was just really, because I watched that quite recently, the Ballerina film, and this was made a couple of years before, and you could see there's sort of a some familiarity there. You can see, you know, that sort of John Wick 87 kind of trademark style. I thought she was really good. She's very funny because she's clearly a bit unhinged. And I like the way they sort of play with that. The guys watching it, and the guy they're going in, Joshua Maybe is who's also a very good filmmaker in his own right and performer. He's the wannabe fiance, and the kind of lead in is, you know, he, like you said, they've got to do this job, but he's always worried about her sort of losing it. And she's chosen to wear pristine white trainers on this job. As soon as they get a little bit of mark on them from something that happens later in the short, she's sort of off to the races at that point. But I thought it was very entertaining. I've been looking forward to seeing this. One's been on my radar for a while. It's got a really good poster, and there's a dedicated website to it which has got lots of information. So I've been keeping an eye on it getting released for ages, and I felt it was really good. It's only 6 minutes long, but I would have loved to have seen more. I'm hoping. I don't know what these guys have got coming up. I know Dan Liu, who's the director here, he's been busy with sci-fi fiction TV stuff like Star Trek and Kind, just doing a few episodes of those here. And Star Trek Picard and other TV stuff he's done over the years. But I thought, you know, he's done a really fun little job here. And say our lead actress, Nereida, she's got nothing else credited, which is strange to me as an actor. I don't know what's happened. So they made this in like 23, 24, and she hasn't got any credits after that. So I don't know what's happening there. This was clearly a film that was a bit like Bullet Storm, quite tailored to showcase her as a performer, you know, acting and comedy and all that. They've you know, it goes all in on her, and I think it does a great job and really selling her. I thought it works much better than Bulletstorm or something like that. And I'm just really shocked that there's not anything else showing on her credits. So fingers crossed we'll see her again soon in something, and perhaps this is an oversight because IMDb doesn't always list everything, as we know. There can be significant oversight. So now that this is out in the wild, hopefully it will get more notice and we might get to see another project from her.
Indeed, absolutely. We certainly would like that. So for our long shot this week, we have Night of the Ronin. After a double cross gone wrong, an unprofessional hitman and his boss's girl are on the run. After surviving a horrific beatdown, they retreat to her childhood home in hopes of surviving a wave of armed goons looking to retrieve the mobster's property and the head of the Ronin who betrayed him. That was a mouthful. Okay, so this is the longest shot of the of what we've got this week. This clocks in at just over 35 minutes, and it is pretty much action-packed all the way through. There's a bit of setup at the beginning. We've been dropped into the story after that initial beatdown, we don't see any of that sort of stuff, but we can see that the girl's been beaten up quite significantly. We get a good sort of setup of him leaving caches of weapons all over the property so he can go grab them, which reminded me of two things. One, A Better Tomorrow, of course, the restaurant scene in that, but also one of my favorite films, Where Eagles Dare, which spends a lot of time showing you how meticulous their planning is for their escape. They set everything up so that when they do have to escape, it's all in place, and that's kind of what we get here, which I enjoyed. There's a couple of rather interesting things where they don't go the way you expect. I thought that was well done, and I must admit, I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often in these sort of films. And there's a pretty decent smattering of blood and guts along the way as well. Very, very enjoyable shot. Your thoughts, Rich?
Yes, I enjoy this a lot. We actually covered the lead guy, the Ronin, is played by a guy called Jeffim Cherokee. We covered a short fan film that he did called Han Wick. You may remember.
Yes, yeah. That was very
2021.
good. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and the John Wick influence is very much apparent in this, which is directed by Nathan Bender, who's got quite a few things in his filmography, including another long shot, which was about a 50-minute film, which he did a few years before this. But he's so this was made in New South Wales, and it's very micro budget, but I think it uses its budget really well. The opening of the film is quite slow, and we get this sort of locked off shot of the heroine in profile, so we don't see
don't see the damage straight away.
Sort of there's a nice reveal to that, and it builds its pace quite nicely. But then after about 7 minutes, it sort of launches straight in, and it becomes sort of a nighttime action. But again, nighttime action is not easy to do, so they've sort of not made things particularly easy for themselves by trying to do a night shoot, although it does look really good. Unlike, say, we've talked about some films before where they've tried to avoid a night shoot by trying to do day for night, and it just hasn't really worked. This, you can clearly tell that they have shot it at night, and it looks sort of authentic. We get a bit like, say, like a John Wick kind of situation. We get wave of these sort of henchmen coming after our hero. The heroine is kind of sidelined, she's sort of tucked away for her own protection, although that doesn't quite work out the way they were hoping it would. But the action is very much on our hero protecting, fighting off the wave of bad guys. He's all dressed in black, but he's got a red tie, which I think must be a nod to Agent 47 in the Hitman video game.
Yeah.
But apart from that, it's very John Wick. There's some nice. It's all set around this sort of farm location, and the action is pretty relentless for like 20+ minutes or something. And it reminded me of a Johnny Young Bosch film called Broken Path, directed by Koichi Sakamoto. That's about an hour and 20 minutes it's like, if I recall correctly, it's like in a similar rural location. Yeah. And it's just non-stop fighting. It's just so much fighting constantly. And in a way that was kind of detrimental, because I thought an hour and a half of non-stop fighting was just too much. But in this case, and there's been some other films where they've tried to do that, and again, I think you can have too much of a good thing sometimes. This one, I think it's just about enough. If they'd have made this same film with the same amount of action, but then peppered more dialogue scenes in between, I think that would have been that. You've still got more than enough action. There's a feature-length film's amount of action in this short running time. There are some nice flourishes of visual effects, which I thought were very effective. So we get some like broken glass kind of effects where it wouldn't have been practical for them necessarily to do that, in reality. But I thought you can tell it's visual effect, but it's just about good. It's good enough that you go with it, and it's fine. It's not one of those, oh, that looks really cheap kind of effects. It's actually quite effective, and there's some really nice gore effects, but we've also got some nice practical gore effects as well. There's plenty of blood, as you say. There's a lot of blood on display in this one. Yeah, really recommend it. There's some great characters. There's like this berserker character who I think is one of the choreographers himself. I think he's called Dread Skull. I think that's the right credit. But he's got this axe, and there's a very John Wicky moment where he throws the axe and the axe gets caught, and then and then it gets thrown back, and the other guy catches it. So they kind of throw it back and forth between each other. Earlier, one of the shorts, I think it was Bulletstorm, had a moment where a gun gets thrown and caught. And,
that's right.
And again, these are very sort of John Wicky kind of moments that are happening in these things. Yeah, I thought the film, as you say, there's certain parts that don't play out exactly as you would have expected. I think the action is all shot really well. There's one part where there's a fight that the action is shot very close, and you can't really see what they're doing, and it just feels at odds with what everything else they were doing in the rest of the film, which is all quite distanced shots where you can see very clearly who's doing what and that they're doing it. The close-up stuff just sort of really threw me. It felt like maybe that they weren't able to do as much choreography in that scene as they wanted, so it was a bit of a shortcut to sort of keep the fight pace going, but without the demands of detailed choreography in those particular moments. But the rest of it is really good. Some of the shooting of the camera work is really nice. There's lots of dynamic tilts and smooth gliding motions and that in certain sections of the film. And yeah, it's very, I mean, for something that you're going to watch for free on YouTube, I think you can't do wrong really with this.
Yeah, you mentioned the smoothness of the camera work. I mean, that's very apparent during the the sword battle at the end, because they're on very uneven ground at times, and I was kind of expecting, I don't know if they used a drone or just a track or whatever, but they did a good job of keeping that seamless. And I love the how badly the guy gets chopped up at the end. It's well
Oh,
deserved.
that's crazy. That's like proper. What was that? I was thinking of something like the story of Ricky or something. It almost goes that far.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very good indeed. There you have it. That is Night of the Ronin, our long shot for this episode. Go check it out. Our short shot throwback this week is HARDWAY, the action musical. In this one, Jake and his SWAT team raid an abandoned factory in order to bring down the country's most dangerous terrorist, naturally singing and dancing. Right. Interestingly, this has a similar plot to a film we covered on the main show last week called Outgunned. It has a very similar idea at the heart of it. So we have Jake and his partner. Who was his partner called at the beginning?
Oh, Zach, isn't it?
Zach, that was it. So Jack and Zake. Oh God, I get this right in a minute. Okay, Jake and his partner Zach at the beginning of the film are rescuing a senator from this terrorist gang known as the Children. Zach gets injured and left behind while Jake rescues the senator, is basically the setup. And the belief is, of course, that Zach has been murdered by the remaining children. As things develop, 6 months later, they're on the trail of the children again, and think they're going to bust them, but things don't quite turn out the way they planned. An interesting synopsis for a horror film, an interesting synopsis for an action film anyway. But then they add this element of turning it into a musical. So you have these sort of musical interludes which sort of comment on various things, what's actually happening in the story, what's actually happening with the characters. Sort of, we have these sort of like riff-offs between the children and the SWAT team, and then there's this this sort of bit of law where you're not allowed to shoot anyone while they're singing and or dancing. which becomes quite integral to part of the story. I'm not sure where I stand on this one, Rich, overall. I like some of it for sure, but I don't think the singing and dancing bit really fit. No, I can't
Okay.
say it does. But what do you make of it?
Well, this was a recommendation on my part because I've this is currently showing on Disney Plus, but
Yep.
prior to that, it was available you could buy it. It turned up as like a purchase on Vimeo, kind of deal. So I've owned a copy of this for a while. It's one of the very few short films. I think it's the only short film I've ever bought because I was just so keen to see it,
All right.
and I thought the trailer just looked great. And I think it's not. It might not be. Sorry, I don't think it's perfect. There's certain parts of it that I'm not as on board with, but I think it's a cracking film in terms of what they achieved. It's a German production that's trying to look like an American production. I think it nails
Well,
it.
yeah, I have to agree with you there because I was totally fooled.
Yeah, the film takes place in Detroit, but it was shot in say in part of Germany, and they've added visual effects shots and things for certain sequences. There's some really nice establishing shots that they use that really sell the sort of this is a Hollywood action movie kind of look feel to it.
Hmm.
The leads are all speaking with American accents. They're not German. They're from different areas, but the lead character, the lead guy, is a British stage performer principally, and I thought he was great. He was so good that I was like really surprised to see that he didn't have many credits on his IMDb, and that's because he's always on stage.
Yeah.
He's just about to do. There's like Disney are doing a new Greatest Showman musical I think it's starting in Bristol, and he's the lead. He's the Hugh Jackman.
All
He's
right.
the lead P.T. Barnum character in that. But he's got tons of credits in London's West End going back years.
Mm.
Interestingly, the director Daniel Vogelman originally wanted and courted to try and get Neil Patrick Harris for this role,
All right.
and I think that could have been interesting, but I don't think he would have been able to sell the action hero kind of
Yeah,
side
I've
of
been too
things as well.
distracting with it. Yeah.
So, and yeah, I think the fact that people would recognize him and everything
Mm.
could have played against it. Whereas I think this guy, who nobody's really familiar with, he looks and feels American action hero kind of character, and that works really well. The sort of mixing of cop drama kind of stuff with music, musical sequences has been done before. I don't know if you've heard of a TV series called Cop Rock,
I have indeed.
which
Yeah.
was made in 1990, and there's various other things. I think there's a little bit of Team America did a little bit of that. I actually felt in the production. I mean, it predates this, but recently I watched the Naked Gun remake, and I thought this kind of had a similar aesthetic in terms of how it was visually, and like in the opening sequence of the remake of Naked Gun, it's quite a hardcore action scene as well as being quite silly.
Yeah.
And I think this one did this film, which kind of say from 2017, was doing the same kind of idea. It's actually quite a lot of violence is off screen, but when there is some violence, there's some quite heavy violence at moments in the story, alongside what is essentially a light-hearted musical. So I think they balance that quite nicely. Some of the musical sequences very much go for the laughs, and some of them, if they're too heavy-handed with it, I wasn't quite on board with it. There's like this character who wears like these 3D glasses, and he does like a introduction. Oh, here I'm this character kind of thing, which I thought that didn't work. That part didn't work for me. I thought when it was being quite earnest about it being just a standard action movie that just happens to be a musical at the same time, that actually worked best when it was playing it straight. What was the other thing I was going to say? Yeah, so I thought they did a really good job with the sort of aesthetics of it. The whole location, a typically abandoned sort of location. I like the little touches, like they've got in the opening. It's the SWAT team, so there's no musical sequence in the opening. It plays it completely straight for the first few minutes, and then as soon as the pre-title burst, sort of sings the line that leads in the title "HARDWAY." Then it's about the beat squad, So they've all got patches on the BEAT. And I thought the dance choreography as well by Isabella Blum, with both with the cops and the children, was all really good, really high, really good quality. The songs are written by the director himself, Daniel Vogelman, and with music by the composer Jacob Klortz, and they're actually a musical group themselves, the two of them, called the Exploding Void. So they have deep interests in music, and they understand music, and so I think that's why the musical sequences work as well as they do. I think there's some twists and turns in the story which work and stuff. I thought it was I think it's really good. I like it a lot, but I'm a bit disappointed that I haven't seen anything more from. Again, this is kind of a trend for some of the stuff. Daniel Vogelman did this film, which I think was really quite impressive, and his sort of career trajectory kind of went in a different direction. He kind of went towards German television and stuff like that, rather than sort of really growing as a perhaps a feature filmmaker. I think I was surprised he hadn't gone over to America and made something, or even shot a feature film in English to sort of get the attention of Hollywood. Because I definitely think he can do, he knows the tropes, he understands what the audiences want. And I think, he's made something that sort of really stood out. This was a crowdfunded film, by the way. So he got a lot of people behind him. And I think he definitely delivered on what he was promising when that Indiegogo campaign went live, even if he didn't get Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah, I mean, the musical numbers are well produced and everything, and I did like the playing around with sort of various action tropes as well. I thought that was quite well done. But I don't know, I'm not quite sure if the two sides sort of gelled for me. But anyway, a good effort, nevertheless.
It was an experiment, definitely.
Absolutely. Okay, that is our final film of this particular episode. So thanks, Rich, for curating this motley group of fight films and martial arts films, etc., etc. Yeah. So don't forget to check us out on Facebook and X and Blue Sky at the DTV Digest. Other than that, thank you for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.